Well, that's like not
fair.
I mean, look, I love Batman, right? He's awesome. Really, no, literally awesome. But like, really?
Good answer.
He's gonna read you a little thing. He's gonna read a little thing, and some of you will recognize it. And it's not, we're not adapting this thing, but it is the thing that will help tell that story. You know, it's funny. I'm a big fan of this. Well, Frank Miller. You know, I'm a big Frank Miller fan.
Really? You don't say.
Yeah, teeny bit. And you know, Frank's version of Superman in Dark Knight Returns is like, you know, he's that Boy Scout, government Boy Scout, right? And I was like, okay, more than like going to a place to say, like, this is the Superman I want. I went there to say, like, okay, this is a Superman that we even though it's awesome, you have to sort of do the opposite of that in order for him to be like the Superman that you want to be. And so I kind of used Frank's Superman to tell me what not to do in a way. I mean, by the way, I'm a huge fan of that rendering of Superman, but for this incarnation, he had to be awesome.
So, being a fan and being a director, if you could, you know, talk about any comic books that you would hope to see a little bit of in the next film.
Here's what I think about adapting comic books to film. I don't want to see in this movie, and I don't think Zack's trying to do, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. That will deserve its own movie, and God willing, one day he's going to do it.
No, that would be absolutely.
Somebody's going to get there, and if anybody's going to get there, it's him.
If you were going to do that, you'd need a different Superman. So that's like we're bringing Batman into the universe that now this Superman lives in.
Think about how many comic book stories they've done over the years in the hands of how many different creators, everybody having a different take on it. Now you've got the tools in filmmaking to actually make movies that look like these comic books. So rather than being like, do the greatest hits, just show me everything I've ever seen. Like, let them do what every good comic book creator does. Takes the character and does something original with it. Yeah. Like, they were able to do stuff. He was able to do stuff with this movie where I'm like, all right, they showed me something new. I hadn't thought about that. This is a cool addition. This is... That to me is what you do as an artist. You take something that exists and you're like, I'm gonna do something different with it. I'm gonna do what I do with it. And it was bold.
And then, like, you finish Watchmen, and like, because I was a fan of comic books, also it's sort of the evolved version of comic books, right? Watchmen, right? It's the, I'm like an intellectual, like, who likes comic books, so I like Watchmen, right? And I'm gonna make that into a movie to justify my love of comic books or whatever. And then, once that's out of your system, though, I gotta say, you know, there's a hollowness to the end of Watchmen, right? Especially in sort of geekdom, you know, like you finish Watchmen and you're like, oh.
There's no hope for anyone.
There's no hope. Right. Like, is there a way to like, isn't there a way to love, is it okay to love this?
Right.
And I think that's the relationship I had with Superman in making the film, was I really wanted to love Superman. You know, I wanted Superman to be okay, because he represents so much. He's the first. He's the greatest superhero. He's the top of the pyramid, especially in a DC universe. In my opinion, in all of comics, he's certainly the first, and I would argue that he's, you know, the godfather in every genre of comic book. And to make him work is to make that whole world, legitimize that whole world. And so the responsibility I had on myself, and I don't think moviegoers will feel that or see that, but for me the responsibility was like, make him work, and you're justifying sort of the why of comic books or the why of graphic storytelling and all that. I know it sounds heady, but I think so. I mean, I think that Chris, if you look at what Chris did with Dark Knight, you can see that there's room in the genre to like, in the superhero world, to like make a good movie, right? And I think that that's something I've never felt like a movie should exist in the real world before, but I feel like Superman should. Like it should be. You know, we've designed the movie as like a movie that we shoot on location a lot, and you know, in real settings with real situations, because I feel like the most realistic movie I'll make is a movie with Superman in it, which I think is ironic, but in some ways right, because I like the idea that in order to support him, like that's never like Superman's never existed that way, right? Like in some ways, for me to do a stylized Superman movie is the Superman movies that have all been made, because they're all Superman movies that, all the Superman movies that have been made exist in some sort of weird stylized world where like everyone's like apple pie and Chevrolet and it's like madness, right? Like it's like an American dream in a weird way. So the idea for me is like, or the thing I find interesting is that being able to release the character from that world, that stylized world where he's been stuck and shackled, and bring him to our world and see what he does, you know? I was really careful with that stuff. I remember I created a chart, I think I still have it, of what weapons would hurt him and at what level, right? So like small arms fire is like a BB gun, right? And then all the way up to, I think a cruise missile, I said, would be like getting hit by a 250-pound linebacker from 8 feet away, like with a running start. And then all the way up to like a nuclear weapon, question mark. I was like, I don't know. Yeah. Will an ICBM kill him? I don't know. Maybe. The way Superman is awesome is that if you believe that he's real,
right,
or you believe the physics of Superman, and so that's really sort of where the whole style of the movie came. We know that the top of the pyramid of the DC universe is Superman.
Right.
There's no two ways about it.
Right.
You make Superman, if Superman works, and if you can get Superman to like be strong and be powerful in his world, then it can trickle down, and you can say, okay, now I have the top of the pyramid, I can start to build another world underneath it. So
who's your favorite superhero?
I guess Superman is my favorite superhero, strangely. You're not supposed to say that's not cool to say, but he is.
It's not cool to say.
Just because you're doing it, it's weird. Well, I think it's in the story first, and that maybe instead of saying, oh, this is a thing for a girl and this is a thing for a guy, I try to look for sort of the universal things that sort of unite all of us as humans. And, those things I think are, naturally in Superman as a character. You know, he's all of us, but he's the best we can be at the same time. And I think that's what I really, really was trying to make happen in the film, was to say, have anyone in the audience go like, wow, if I was Superman, that's what I would do. To me, Superman really was represented in this sort of really complex mythology that I feel like is amazingly important even now, People think, oh, he's out of date, Superman's out of date because he just wants to help everyone. And I'm always like, wait a minute. So wait, helping people is not cool now?
Right.
Like that's not, and so that was really important for me to get that message of, sort of sacrifice, and this message of volunteer work, really is what he's all about. Like completely anonymous, right? Like he's just like, look, no one needs to know who I am, but I have to help, And
Right.
I think that's cool for us, in this modern world where everyone's so snarky and wanting to just like say, that, maybe helping people isn't cool. I don't get that.
Sure.
And then of course, that's who Superman is to me.
The most iconic dude in the comic book universe, no doubt, no question, in the story.
That's it, right? So you go, okay, who's the top of the pyramid? Superman.
Without question.
How do you get him up there, right? How do you get him back?
You got to get him back, and he's got to look good doing it.
Well, people always said to me, like, well, what, I've, get a lot of questions. Oh, what about Justice League? What about, like, whatever more Superman movies? I'm just like, listen, you got to get the House of L in order, before you can start, you
got to get the
messing
house
around
together.
with some
Like your
Justice
mama
League.
would tell you back in the day, you got to have your house together first.
Really, it comes down to how do you make Superman cool? And for me, anyway, he always has been cool, so it's not like a thing where I had to say, like, put him in, like, jeans and a T-shirt and let him, you know what I'm saying? Like, there was that conversation. I was like, no, he's got to be in the red boots, the cape, the big S. Look, the truth is, I think you really have, to get Superman 100% in order, because you can't have a Justice League without Superman. Like, he's kind of the chairman of the board of the if there were a Justice League. So, like I said, I think if you can get Superman all together, then I think there's a conversation to be had about what to do with Justice League.
I have to ask you about Zack as well, obviously. What was he like as a director and a mentor on set?
Mentor is a good word, actually.
Totally.
He's so collaborative and energetic, and he sort of imbued us with this confidence that I think I'm going to carry it for the rest of my life.
And I wanted to ask you as well about Superman. Obviously, you're getting ready to film that now.
Yep.
Will we see some sort of similar visual style in that to what we've seen in Sucker Punch?
I don't think so. I think that Superman is a sort of divinely different thing for me. I'm sort of approaching it like his credibility relies on his believability, and I really feel like it'd be cool to put him in a hard reality.
If Superman went head-to-head with Sucker Punch girls, who do you think would win?
Superman would win for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Man of Steel, hands down.
He's tough to beat.
Oh, come on. Superman's one guy.
And he doesn't have a gun.
Yeah, I know, seriously. Sorry.
I mean, we're heavily armed.
Do you want to know what Zack said?
unit.
What did Zack
he
say?
He said Superman.
No way! It's just because
Controversially.
he hasn't been created yet.
Look at him holding it. No. We are real girls.
He might have been of jumping around. I know, I guess
What
maybe
was-
our guns don't penetrate him. Shoot, I didn't even think about that.
What was Zack's explanation for that?
He didn't really give one. He just was
just
like,
went, Superman.
Superman, hands down.
Ooh, Zack Snyder, you
He's
in
in
trouble.
trouble.
We gonna get you.
We gonna get you.
All right.